Hi, good afternoon, and welcome everyone to our Tea Time SEO. We've got a great lineup today in store for you. I'm SEO Joe Blogs from Authoritas, and I'm also joined here by Carrie Shepherd. And we've got our first ultimate guide in digital PR today with Abi Bennetts, Amie Sparrow, and Jess Peace. And it was international tea time within the UK and Barcelona today. We've got Kerry in Putney, Amie in Surrey, Jess in Sheffield, and Abi in Bedford, just north of London. So really excited to have everyone here today, and also it's I like to call it, well, Thankful Thursday. I think I've seen some people from Blue Array. I saw that on your Twitter account, and I think that's really great. And obviously, it's also Thanksgiving, so very thankful for having everyone come today and always supporting Tea Time SEO. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. But just for now, I'm going to pass over to Jess, Amie, and Abi, who introduce themselves.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Jess Peace. I'm a content and PR specialist at Evolution New Media in Sheffield. And I actually have a background in journalism. So my background is working as a freelance journalist and copywriter, and then later content marketing. So I've held various roles across digital, from SEO management to content management and strategy as well. I'm very new to digital PR, so I'm very lucky to be with these ladies today. I've worked with brands such as Kath Kidson, Ciate, Linda Meredith, Misguided, Spa Seekers, and some really great brands like that. I absolutely love Yorkshire tea, and I'm passionate about anything which blends creative and stitch. And I'll pass you on to the next one.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amie Sparrow. I'm a digital PR manager at Blu-ray SEO in Reading. Shout out to all my Blu-rayers watching. Thank you. I have about 8 years experience as a journalist in America before I moved to beautiful Surrey, and about 10 years experience in marketing and PR. My personal motto is get shit done, and I'm obsessed with champagne.
Cool. So hi everyone, I'm Abi Bennetts. I'm the digital PR manager at Digitaloft, which is a content and digital PR agency. I've got over 2.5 years experience working with some amazing brands, including Travel Supermarket, Compare the Market, Ladbrokes, and more. So I have a degree in psychology, and I love talking about all things psychology, the brain, and how we can use this in outreach. And I also run a newsletter, quick plug, called Work in Progress, which is all about digital PR too. And seeing as the girls mentioned their favourite drinks, I'll go with mine too, Diet Coke. Wish I was sponsored by them, but not sponsored.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Tea Time SEO. I think some of us have got their coffee, tea, or whatever beverage you like in your tea today. And thanks, everyone, for joining us so far. We've got a lot of the Blue Array team. We have Steph, Anna, Chloe. We also have Lucy, Gregory. Hello to Hannah, Lawrence, Raf, and Carl, as well as Luce. So thank you very much. We're going to pass over to our great speakers who are going to share some great digital PR tips. So if you are enjoying it, do click a like on the button below, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll be back for the Q&A section. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'll kick this one off then. So I've got 3 top tips which are aimed at anyone who is looking to get into digital PR, mainly from a client or brand perspective, but it works as well if you're looking to get into the industry as a PR yourself. So my top tips are to identify your campaign goals and work backwards from there. Know your audience and your competition, and don't think outside the box. Think as if there isn't one at all. So my first tip is to identify your campaign goals and work backwards from there. And this kind of comes from the fact that there is no one size fits all when it comes to creating a strategy for digital PR. So for any client or brand, or whether you're looking to get into it yourself, there isn't going to be a one size fits all approach to it. So it all depends on what you are trying to achieve from having PR in general as a service, or how you're trying to get results for your clients. So for example, if you're looking to drive traffic to a particular product page, you want to think about content which is loosely sort of related to that product. If you want to establish authority, then it might be that newsjacking or reactive PR and thought leadership will be more beneficial for you guys, because you will demonstrate expertise that way. Or if you want to raise brand awareness, then something that is a bit more PR stunty, a bit more creative, bigger and bold, especially across content marketing, might work better for you. As well, if it's something where you want to rank for a certain keyword, then doing something like typing that keyword into Pursumo will show you what kind of PR campaigns already exist around that, and you can kind of go from there. So the second tip is to know your audience and to know your competition. So one thing from a content and SEO background, but absolutely works for PR as well, is to always think about your audience and the user intent behind everything that you're creating. So as good as it is to have a really creative idea, you have to think about who is on the end of that and what you want to achieve from it. So one thing to sort of think about is who you're creating that content for. So good user intent and audience awareness will always deliver. So the best way to do that is to look at the kind of content that your target audience or your target publications are consuming themselves. So what do they engage with? What kind of articles are the journalists that you're targeting writing about? If you want to get in a particular publication, what kind of stories are they covering? Always look at that and see where your idea fits. Keep an eye on your competitors and what they're doing as well, because this way you'll sort of find out ways to bridge the gap. Are they offering something to your audience that you currently don't? What have you got that's different? What's your USP? And how can you make sure that you're not only competing, but going above and beyond to put yourself at the forefront? And the third tip is to don't think outside the box, but think as if there isn't one. So obviously with your users in mind, make sure that all the content that you're putting out there, and especially if you're outreaching with it, is relevant. But I think the best way is to sometimes, from your strategy, yes, it's all about planning, but sometimes you have to be reactive, you have to be bold, you have to take risks, you have to basically have lots of fresh ideas, and don't be afraid to not fail, but to learn from things that haven't worked so well. So the best way to kind of devise your PR strategy is to think of other ideas outside of the thing that you're directly trying to market. So don't limit yourself by thinking too closely to your product or your service or whatever it might be that you're trying to put out there. Otherwise, you run out of ideas very quickly. One thing I would say is to try to follow brands and businesses, people within the industry who are experts, people that you look up to, people who are sharing ideas all the time, competitors. Pay attention to what they're doing and pay attention to the kind of things that they consume. Looking at things like trending topics, any kind of industry, whatever your client industry might be or whatever industry you're in, you want to think about important dates and news and events as well. So there's always something that you can make PRable around that, regardless of what your sort of background is. Make sure that you're drawing inspiration from everything, because there is a heck of a lot of content out there to compete with. So you want to make sure that you're doing something different, or if it already exists, you want to make sure that you're doing it better. So here are just some sort of well-rounded top tips from this. So how to kind of get into your ideation if you're not sure where to start. So try and monitor something like journal requests on Twitter. This is a good way to kind of see what's happening in the news, and it gives you an opportunity to be reactive and to use newsjacking to jump on opportunities. You want to follow brands that you love. So even if they're not relevant to the brand or the client that you're marketing for, you can draw inspiration from them too. It doesn't have to be directly related, as well as PR professionals and other places for campaign inspiration. So here are some top ones that I like to follow, which are Campaign Mag, Digital PR Examples, and Famous Campaigns. You also want to think about, whenever you create a campaign, as well as the creative idea might be awesome, you want to make sure that there is a hook, because sometimes great ideas need a bit of substance. So you want to make sure that when you're going out to journalists, that they know that they can cover it straight away. It's something that appeals to them. So try and write your headline as if it is something that they would already cover. Always think about the news angle right at the ideation start of your campaign, not after you've finished. and always look for ways to keep your campaign going for longer, to keep it fresh. So it might be that you re-angle it according to something that's come up in the news. It might be that you create supporting content or unicorn content. It might be that you can create cluster content or a series of content around it, but make sure that it's not just a one campaign that you'll push once. It's something you can return to and that will keep on giving. And that's it from me. I will pass you on to Amie.
Thanks so much, Jess. I also love journal requests. It's a really good resource. Yeah, so hi guys, I'm Amie, and for the past about 5 years, I've had the pleasure of setting up digital PR departments within different companies, one within an agency and the other within an in-house brand. So my tips are things to consider basically before starting a digital PR function, either in-house or at an agency. I'll also talk about determining what you want from your digital PR and how that can affect the approach that you take, and just some extra tips that I'll probably have to rush through at the end because I'll probably talk too long. Great. So first of all, these are some things to think about before setting up your digital PR, whether that's at an agency, an SEO agency, a content agency, any type of agency versus in-house. So for thoughts for an SEO agency, you want to look at what is your offering. I think determining this from the start is the best way forward. Are you going to offer it as a bolt-on service? So by that I mean, is it going to be like a traditional PR function where you're doing monthly digital PR campaigns for the clients? Or are you integrating the digital PR offering into an SEO roadmap or a content delivery roadmap? How will you offer it? So again, monthly PR campaigns, or are you doing more like foundational link building to evergreen assets on the website? Or are you kind of relying on hero campaigns to get the campaign coverage for you every month? Collaboration within the client team is really important. So by that I mean, for like at Blue Array, so our clients that have digital PR and SEO services, we're able to kind of blend our expertise. So if the SEO team works on a certain page for a client one month, then maybe the next month we would do an asset and a campaign leading back to that page to kind of supercharge the SEO work that's been done. Or alternatively, you could have completely separate goals with completely separate roadmap lines. It's really important. One thing I learned is to be a really good PR internally as well. It's something that's easy to overlook, but having high visibility within the agency, and by that I mean everyone in the agency needs to know what digital PR is and what it could do for your clients. So say there's someone who is an SEO manager and they see a need for a client to have a stronger backlink profile. They'll know, hey, actually digital PR can help with this, and maybe that's something they can recommend to the client for you, or do an introduction for digital PR services to that client. But really kind of making a point to make it well known what digital PR could do, and the ROI based on that will really be helpful for the SEO side as well. If you're an in-house brand, some of the same things still apply, of course, but you need to think more about how you're going to form the service. So are you going to do outreach to existing assets on your website, or articles or tip sheets or things like that? Your main bread and butter in-house would probably be media commentary. So like Jess mentioned, Journal Request is an excellent resource. At my last in-house place, we would get probably around like 20 to 30 backlinks per month just by using Journal Request alone. So we didn't even have to rely on campaigns or spend a lot of money creating these massive campaigns that may or may not work, may or may not land. It's that expert commentary that's really helpful. The expert commentary is also really helpful for building relationships with journalists. Oftentimes when a journalist is on deadline and maybe they've already submitted their article and their editor has come back and said, hey, you need to add some expert voice into this, for you to be able to come in as the helper and savior and really save a journalist when they're desperate for a comment on deadline. That journalist is going to remember you next time, and that's a great way to start a relationship with someone. we should always try to be helpful and not the stereotype of the annoying PR who's like the enemy of the journalist. Yeah, so that's probably your main strategy there. Also, ego baiting is another great strategy. So let's say I really wanted to be in Abby's newsletter or on her website. Maybe I would offer to interview Abby for mine and say, oh, I would love to interview you. I'd love to have you on. Then I would post that on my site and then send it to her and say, oh, hey, I'd love if you could include this on your site. So there's like lots of different strategies that you could use as an in-house brand. So it doesn't always have to be campaign based. There's loads of other approaches. And also just what's unique to your brand. So what internal data, what internal data do you have on your customers, or could you pull your customers? Like, what do you have that no one else can have? That would be interesting to a journalist. Also, if it's not super interesting, you could always layer it with something that is more timely and relevant. So oftentimes we'll look at what internal data we have and then how we could layer that with an ONS data or census data or something else. So then we're really creating a super unique research strand that no one else can have for a journalist. And again, you have to collaborate internally as well. It has to be really well known within the company internally what your goals are for digital PR, and that it's not the same as what the goals are for corporate PR. So naming someone new to a senior leadership team, someone might say, oh, did you send that to PR? Well, that's not digital PR, because the only people that care about that are the stakeholders for the company. Yeah, it's just like making that really well known so that when other areas of the business see potential opportunities, they can identify them and bring them to you, to your attention. Okay, I'm ready now. Thanks. So also it pays to kind of think like what you want out of your digital PR before you start forming the offering. So what the priority is. So if you're mainly looking for the SEO benefits of digital PR, you want to target sites that give do follows and have high domain authority and trust flow scores. So these are some really helpful tools that will help you identify those. If you want, excuse me, referral traffic mainly, then you want to target sites that are a little more generous with their backlinks. Remember, you have to have something like a reason for someone to click. So we can't just really rely on a hyperlinked brand mention anymore. Journalists aren't going to have any motivation to send people to your website. Back in the day, it might have been just a matter of course, as a matter of like identifying the name of the brand or something. But nowadays you need to really have like compel people to click on your site. So maybe that's when you send an overview of facts to the journalist for an article, but you have a more in-depth report on your website, or perhaps you have more in-depth graphs or other assets on your site that would compel a reader to want to learn more about the topic, and knowing that they're not going to be able to fit it all in the article. So there's loads of reasons or ways you could do that to increase your referral traffic, and those are some helpful tools there. If you're just looking to improve your site's expertise, authority, and trust, you want to target everyone that's relevant. So anything relevant, that's like your main priority. Anything relevant to your brand is what you want to target, obviously, if it's a site with good metrics. And the spoiler alert of it all is that digital PR helps with all of these things. So you can actually craft campaigns that hit all of these, but it's great to start in looking at what is your main priority first. And then finally, I've just listed some sites that typically give do follows. I think, so Google prefers obviously a natural mix of backlinks, and there are going to be do follows, no follows, unlinked mentions, all of that stuff is a healthy part of a healthy backlink profile. However, to me, for my approach at least, and with my team, is like, why not target what you actually want? So I want to target my campaign to the sites that give do follows. If my campaign gets picked up by a media brand that gives no follows, then it's great, but it's not what I want. I want the do follow backlinks. And usually I find that if the campaign gets picked up by let's say any of the JPI media titles, some of the smaller sites are going to pick it up anyway. So there will still be a natural mix of do follow and no follow backlinks. But yeah, so these are some UK sites that typically give do follows. And then my final slide next are some American sites that give do follow backlinks. One thing I want to say about this is I found that I know I'm biased because I'm from Chicago, but it seems like the American sites are more likely to give do follows. I think it's just not as much of a thing in America to do blanket no follow rules. So I've had more success targeting American sites for do follows. Also, the radio stations in America, if you could get picked up by Heart or Kiss FM in America, that usually goes across their whole American radio profile. And when you think of how many cities are in America, almost every big city in America has a Heart or Kiss FM station. So it's a really quick way to get lots of links. You just have to make sure your campaign is something that's can be talked about in an American morning breakfast show type. So yeah, that's all for me today. Thanks so much, and take it away, Abby.
Thank you so much. They were fab tips. I can't believe how dark it is. Literally from coming on until now, it's just got so dark. It's mental. Anyway, so today I'm going to be chatting a little bit about digital PR tips surrounding the most common misconceptions around digital PR. So I've actually only been in the industry for around 2.5 years now. So I feel like still relatively new to the whole industry. But actually, there are a few things that I noticed at the beginning that I now know not to be true. So my tips today are going to cover these misconceptions and actually clear all of these up. So my first misconception then is that digital PR is only about the links. So if you're a digital PR, you know that, you live for links. Links are the goal here. They're the target. But actually, with our digital PR strategies and campaigns, we can achieve a whole lot more. So this can span across brand awareness, trust, social engagement, authority building, referral traffic. There are so many different metrics you can put in place to analyze your digital PR campaigns and actually really show that value and that ROI on digital PR strategies to your clients. Next slide, please. And so actually we had a really great example of this happening at Digitaloft just a week ago. So we launched a campaign for a beauty and cosmetics client. It was all around the best and hottest beauty brands in 2020. And actually this campaign got picked up by Vogue, and the coverage got picked up by Huda Kattan, who posted on her social media, and she has 48 million followers. So not only did she post the campaign itself, she also posted the coverage. She also tagged the client and is now following our client on Instagram. And so for our client, they obviously are paying for links. They're paying for those links, but actually this is just another extra advantage and a way to get their brand, a small startup brand, out to 48 million followers. And I just think that that's the kind of coverage that money can't buy, and actually really proves that ROI on our strategies. So moving on to the next tip then, is around the misconception that PRs are all extroverted. So the digital PR industry can feel like quite a loud and noisy place to be sometimes. There are a lot of extroverts in the digital PR industry, but actually we're not all Samantha Jones in Sex and the City, I wish. And actually the main qualities when we're looking to build our team at Digitaloft are more about problem solving and enthusiasm and tenacity, because when it comes to pitching a campaign, the whole success of a digital PR campaign, right, it rides on a great idea. And if you don't have the confidence to put your idea out there because you think that the loudest people in the room are going to get there first, then you're never going to get that great idea out of someone. So actually, we really need to be banishing that misconception that you have to be extroverted to work in digital PR. And actually, if you're confident, you're enthusiastic, and you'll keep going at a campaign until it achieves success, then that's what we like. So moving on to the third tip then, is that you need to have existing relationships with journalists to land coverage. So journalists actually don't have the time to build the same relationships that they were building 10 years ago. So there's no more little black books of PR contacts. And actually, I think a great pitch and an engaging story or piece of useful insight rules all. But actually, these relationships are great when it comes to more reactive and product PR. So like Amie was saying, if you can build a relationship with a journalist where they know that you're representing a client who can give speedy and useful insights, then that's great. But actually, don't feel like you have to have an existing really strong best buddy relationship with a journalist to get coverage on those top tier sites, because actually, if you're offering everything they could want in a pitch, then they're going to take that opportunity. So moving on to the fourth tip, around the misconception that all content marketing can easily get links. So I think it's quite easy to fall into the trap when you're new to digital PR to think that just because you've created a campaign or you've come up with an idea and you've gone to the trouble of creating this asset, that it's automatically going to get links. But like Jess was saying, all great ideas need that PR hook to land the links and get the success and get it out there. So all of our ideas go through a really strict validation process to make sure that we have that hook and that this idea is going to get links in the first place. So this validation process briefly is, can we get the data? So is there a strong and credible data source behind the campaign? Has it been done before, or could a journalist do it themselves? If you're giving just like a quick turnaround thing that a journalist could do by themselves easier than you could, then actually you're not adding value to that journalist's workday. Will it resonate with our target audience? So not only will it resonate with our client's target audience, but will it also resonate with the readers of the journalist that we're targeting? Who will cover this? So with every digital PR campaign, you should have in mind a subset of publications and journalists who are going to want to write about your campaign or your story. And then finally, is it right for the client? So sometimes it can be really hard when you come up with an amazing idea that is ever so slightly linked to the client, but actually it might not be right for the client where they are in their business at that moment. That brand link might be slightly too weak for you to push it out there. And actually this will depend on the client on a case-by-case basis. But actually, if you think about all of these things, then you're much more likely to get links on your content marketing. And so finally then, the last misconception I wanted to chat through was that it's all about the asset when it comes to building links for digital PR. But actually, I think we should always think story first. So I like to think about the asset, whether that's an infographic, a full page takeover. This asset should be the anchor for journalists to link back to. And the asset should be something for the client that, as Amie was saying, it should help customers on their journey once they reach a client's site. But actually, to land the link in the first place, you don't need to spend loads of money on fancy designs or interactives if the story is there. And, you know, I think we've all seen a massive shift in the way that digital PR is moving, where actually these quick turnaround comments with no assets are landing links more than ever. So you don't need to worry anymore about spending thousands of pounds on a big interactive. And so that's it from me.
Great, so many tips. Really, I learned a lot. I was busy just writing them down. So thank you very much. We've got a few questions from the audience, so I'll pass over to Kerry.
Great, thank you. So first question we have, Amie, you were showing some sites for do follow links. Are all of those free, or do you have to pay for them?
Oh, no. So for our digital PR work, we're not paying for any backlinks ever. Yeah, it's not recommended. So these are all for earned coverage. So all of those are tier 1 and tier 2 news editorial websites. So you shouldn't pay for those unless you're paying for an advertorial, which is a different situation that you would want to do to advertise for your client. But that would be separate from any of this work.
Great, thank you for clarifying. And Jess, I have a question for you. What has been the average time you had to wait before you saw results? Many clients want quick wins.
Well, I guess that depends on the kind of client. So I think, like Abi said, it's always about sort of pushing your campaign to make sure that you get the coverage that you want. But sometimes you have to switch things up, and sometimes you have to sort of learn that, you know, it might come down to timing, or there might be something extra that you can add to a campaign to sort of switch it around. But I'd say the longest I've had to wait to get feedback on a campaign that I've pushed out before would probably be maybe a couple of weeks. But again, it's all about sort of building those relationships by looking at different ways that you can get in touch with the people that you're trying to target, and make sure that they have everything that they need to be able to cover the story without having to come back to you. But obviously encourage them to do so if there's something else that you feel that they feel that you could give them.
Great, thank you. And Abi, question for you. What metrics do you use to measure success in your digital PR campaigns?
So that kind of depends on a client by client basis, but typically most clients are looking for links. So we'll have a set number of links that we sort of aim for depending on the campaign, but there are a whole other load of metrics that we can include that sort of, as I said, prove that sort of ROI on the campaign. So whether that's looking at referral traffic from the campaign page itself. You can also look at the clicks from the coverage that you've landed, as well as sort of brand sentiment, social shares on the coverage that you've landed. There's a whole range of different things that different clients want to look at. So yeah, it's kind of individual to what they want.
Great, thank you. Amie, a question for you. How much referral traffic do you manage to generate on average for clients?
That's really tough to say, because mainly, so for the in-house brand, you'd actually be surprised how little referral traffic can come through just a linked mention. If you're just doing, so I had a quote for a client at Grazia, and it was a mental health brand, and then linked back to the site. And so we started tracking the referral traffic, and we had limited success with Google Analytics, who wasn't actually tracking any of the traffic for some unknown reason. So we started using tracking links, but then that can run into its own problem, because then the client was worried that they weren't getting the SEO power from the backlink because it was a tracking link. So then it was explaining that. So anyway, long story short, yeah, it really depends. It's hard to give an estimate because, again, you have to have that reason for someone to click through. So if I would spend loads of money making an asset for a reason for someone to click through, then that's going to be much higher than a linked mention.
Thank you. And a last question for all of you. What would one tip that be that you give to cut through any really competitive industries? So Jess, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. So I think if you are trying to market or PR something for a really competitive industry, it's about sort of coming up with those original ideas. So obviously in this industry, a lot of ideas have already been done. And I think each one of us mentioned that it's about giving something extra or doing something that has already been done, but putting your own spin on it. So I think if things are competitive, my actual tip would be to not be intimidated by that. It would be to look for something that you can give to your campaign that nobody else can, and looking for ways to kind of cut through that noise by doing something that's either really different or something that has been done, but doing it a lot better than it's been done before.
That's really useful. Thank you for that. Amie, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It's going to be completely do something different, or do something bigger and better than what's been done before. Yeah, just covered it, I think.
Anything different, Abi?
Yeah, well, I do completely agree with that. I think as well, just to be quick. So if you're in a really competitive industry, that gives you should be quick for all of your clients. But if it's particularly competitive, then you really need to be hot on those requests, hot on those industry trends, hot on what all the journalists are talking about. And actually speed is probably the name of the game in that instance.
Great, thank you. That's been really useful, guys. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's all we have time for today. I'll hand back over to Jo. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. So many great tips that you've all given us, and we'll definitely be implementing them. I've got some great comments from the audience, so thank you very much for that. We are going to have, if anyone has any questions, please also, drop them a line on Twitter or LinkedIn. These are the Twitter details, and we'll be tagging them right after the Tea Time show. For next week, we have 3 speakers talking about Ultimate Guide to Keyword Research. We have Barb Davis, she was on a couple of weeks ago. Charlie Williams, he came back in the beginning of the Tea Time series. And we have our own CEO, Lawrence O'Toole, talking about keyword research. So do log in next week at 4 p.m., the first Tea Time SEO for December. And we look forward to seeing you then. And as I mentioned, we ran out of time, but if you have any other questions, please drop them in the tag our speakers in Twitter and LinkedIn. And we hope to see you all back next week. Thank you very much for all the audience. We had over 40 live views today. And if you've enjoyed the show, click a like and subscribe to our channel, and you can be here same time next week. Thank you very much.